Potty team. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having us.
So
Thanks, Kat.
We're doing our first round table today, and we're going to be talking a few different things. Everyone here has been already on the potty. We've got Ali, Ree, Jill, and me. And yeah, we're all just a bunch of friends going to have a yarn. I'm keen to get into this by talking about the shadow work. I'm just going to be like asking you guys any questions, and if you feel like answering, if something comes to you first, just take it away. So do any of you guys have any tips on recognizing the shadow and becoming okay with it being there?
Yeah, as far as recognizing the shadow goes, that's the hard part. Because it's like, yeah, it's part of your unconscious mind that's out of your awareness. The way I view it is it's like you've got your ordinary consciousness, like where it's day to day, and it's almost like what you can see with the blinkers on. And that's just your general awareness, your reality, your ego, all that kind of stuff. And then almost sitting behind that in your unconscious mind, there's your beliefs that don't fit into your regular reality. So some of those beliefs could be adopted through early childhood, traumatic experiences, just bullshit.
Yeah.
And it's a belief that is more kind of connected to like your feeling body.
Yeah.
So situations that arise that like will trigger a shadow, you'll have a unconscious kind of like feeling reaction, and then that will direct your actions according to that. So like if you had like a shadow of like abandonment, I always go to this because it's even, and then I don't know why, but it's shadow of abandonment, and it's like, oh, there's an unconscious kind of belief about yourself that people will leave and they'll just like fuck off from your life.
Yeah.
And that could be instilled through like, a parental figure or whatever leaving in the past. And that's kind of like almost installed, but not in the conscious part of your brain, more in your unconscious part of your brain. So there's that unconscious belief that like, oh, people will leave me. But then how that shadow would play out would be you would have situations in which you would potentially orchestrate someone to leave you.
Okay.
Unconsciously, like you would have a relationship that's going really well, and then you start acting out in these unconscious ways, doing weird shit, and then that person leaves. Or you start choosing the person that is definitely going to leave, like they're, a military person or whatever, and they're just going to fuck off.
I'm gonna boost like your daddy did.
Yeah, that's it.
I'm gonna go away for some cigarettes.
Yeah, never come back.
Never come back. Be a confirmation bias. It's good. Stick them out.
But it's the confirmation bias. It's the like unconscious, like, oh, this is familiar, so I'll lean towards it. So it's like these beliefs and the belief would be that people will leave. So you're kind of like angling yourself to situations where it feels familiar because that belief is tied to parts of your kind of emotional state.
So that's a big one, man.
I'm
so different to how I would have spoken about it, so I love that.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Really cool. I guess you can kind of be a little bit kinder to yourself as well when you realize that it's more subconscious. I've been drilling myself a little bit about that stuff lately. Being like trying to control it as well and feeling it like, I guess, somatically.
Well, that's the thing. It's like as far as like trying to catch it, it's like as far as your awareness goes, you got to kind of like keep bringing it into your like almost peripheral vision and remember that it's there. And then like when you're in a situation where it'll be triggered, you kind of like, wait a minute, is that what I want, or is that belief making noise again? So like you can't really boot it and get rid of it completely. It's just like running in the background, and then you're like, oh, okay, I got to check it, and I got to check it, and then over time, I think that you can get better at checking it, and it becomes more obvious and more familiar, and then eventually it'll trip you up again. You're like, hey, motherfucker.
Still there.
Friendly with it? Is there a way, or does it still just?
I think over time you can become kinder to yourself.
Kinder to yourself.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah.
I think the first part though is largely people will blame externally. So they will be like, oh, he left me, this, that, the other, using that abandonment example. So it's like, it's noticing patterns within yourself. So you need to notice the pattern and realize that it's part of you and your behavior, and not that external blame of they did this or whatever. So we get the patterns, and then sifting through the patterns, like journaling can be a really good exercise, because if you were to journal for a few months, just daily, your daily stuff, you could flip back through that and notice your own patterns that previously you might not have ever noticed, because you don't have a choice of how to act on them. Like, choice doesn't become available until awareness is available.
Okay.
So first we need to be aware.
Yeah.
Then we can choose our behavior.
Yes.
Whereas, like, backing up what Alice has said, of when it's back in this part of your brain and there's no awareness, you're just being the actor in your own movie. You're being Truman. You don't know that this is actually you don't actually know that you're playing out your own movie.
Fuck.
And you're like
mind blown.
going for your own Oscar, but you believe it's real.
True.
I have everything I need.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if they abandon me.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if you steal my wallet. It's on you. It's
For
an
sure.
inconvenience for me,
Sure.
but it's not my moral dilemma.
That's good. That's good. It's brilliant lessons. It's not something I'm going to be taking into the next phase.
But if you do, laugh at it.
Yeah, no, I'm going to giggle.
There you are again.
Yeah, no, it's very true.
And that's it. You cheeky cunt. You kind of like you see it happen again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Devil you.
Yeah.
Back again. Interesting. And okay, cool. So you guys are just a little friendlier with yourselves, practicing more self-care to become okay with said shadow.
Being the noticer, not the judger.
Yeah. Yeah.
Out of curiosity, do you want to speak about how you saw shadow? Because everybody can see that term differently. It doesn't
of
mean our
course.
definition is.
Depends how you learnt about it, I suppose.
Mm.
But this
I love
conversation informs that too. Well, for me, it's just always the part of myself, like my most embarrassing self, the part that I hate the most, that was a real person. So it's the part of me that I'm most ashamed of. And then understanding that younger boy was just doing the best with the tools that he had at the time, and accepting that, not as a person that, not trying to eradicate him, but going, it's okay, I got you.
Yeah.
I understand. Yeah, that's it. It needs to be held, because otherwise you kind of go about and go, I want to forget about this person in this part of my life, or this probably very formative experience.
Yeah.
I need to cancel that out, and then you end up losing a part of yourself. But then that person keeps coming back up, and then if you just keep trying to resist it, you go, nah, show it a bit of nurture and a bit of patience and some love, and then it can be a lot easier. I feel like I was watching some videos of myself like 10 years ago, because I was looking through some old footage recently from a really old external hard drive, and I've got a lot of footage of my friends and of myself from back when I wanted to start a YouTube channel, back at the start of my filming career. And the way I am speaking and the way I'm talking, I can't even get through one video. It's 1 minute of talking, and I'm sitting there going, oh God, the cringe.
It's very.
It's just like, fuck, the way I'm expressing myself, the lack of confidence, the complete loss that I see in this young boy's eyes, and me, projecting a really confident person on the outside would be.
Yeah.
How cool though, like how fascinating. And it's so great though, in the sense of that, I don't know what the correct saying is, but like every author is ashamed of their first book, and if you're not,
Fuck, I was ashamed of that one.
if you're not ashamed of your first book, you haven't grown. And it's like so cool, I think, when you see those lines in the sand, even though it's like, oh, I was like,
savage.
It's still like, oh well, thank gosh.
Yeah.
Because if I still recognized and I don't know, aligned with that person, that means the past 10 years I've done fuck all.
Exactly. Yeah. If I still, and then I'd still be, 100%. You'd still be expressing yourself in the same way.
I was listening to a podcast the other day, and the guy that was on was talking about how his life isn't spiritual at all, and he doesn't think that life is a spiritual thing. And I noticed myself kind of getting like a little bit triggered by him, just like the way he spoke, his tone of voice. He'd speak over the host, and he was just saying things that I just disagreed with. And then I turned it back on myself, and I was like, what is it about him that's bothering you? And I wondered, like, in a case like that, is it okay to just be like, that's just not my type of person? Or is there a lesson in that? Because I thought into it probably a little bit too deeply, but now every time I have a judgment, I always reflect it back on myself.
I think inquiry is really valuable, and I think it's valuable to inquire, but I don't think there's anything wrong with dismissing either.
Yeah.
Because if there's something of value there for you, don't worry, it'll pop back up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
that's a good way of putting it.
It comes back to that, like, patterns of, like, you know, okay, cool, am I constantly noticing that same kind of person?
Yeah.
And then therefore, is there something for me to explore here?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's really good to have that moment of inquiry, because I've got to admit I can jump straight to judgment and just think flog.
Yeah.
So
who's-
or, you know, like, that's his experience. For some
Yeah.
people that are so addicted to the physical, like this physical realm, that is their truth.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
go you. I think that it's like Ramdas says, you know, it's like missing out on cable.
Yeah.
You don't actually understand that you've got all these channels and you're just flicking between channel 9 and channel 10 if you're solely on this physical plane.
Yeah.
So I can tend to think, okay, cool, that person is just a channel 9, channel 10 person.
Yeah.
And that's okay. But quite frankly, I like having a variety.
Yeah.
To play.
Well, I think it wasn't the spiritual thing that bugged me, but it was the things that backed it up. I think I saw like hyper confidence in him.
With that, do you feel like you smell bullshit? Like that?
I smelled
that
bullshit.
confidence was
Yeah.
a bit of arrogance.
A bit of arrogance, because he kept speaking over the host as well. That was the part that I was like, let
Usually
him
gives it away.
speak. Yeah. But like they were vibing, and I actually quite enjoyed the podcast, listened to it top to bottom. I just thought to myself, like, I feel like I have trouble coming down from the spiritual into the human. I can't imagine not living a spiritual, like,
Existence.
infused life. Yeah.
Yeah, me neither. I think the biggest thing that we can get stuck on with any of these things, no matter what flavor of topic, is just making sure that we're not in a righteous space of being right.
Yeah.
Because that can be a lot of the time, because that's not our truth or whatever,
Yeah.
that sometimes the gradingness could be simply that you're watching a man out of congruence.
Yeah.
Or it could be simply like, as well, there can be a lot of part of us humanness that wants to be right, of like, well, that's not the truth. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he was quite black and white as well, and it's what I'm trying not to be as well.
Mhm.
I'm so like that, and lately I've been trying to find my balance.
It's interesting because I wouldn't say that you are someone that's very black and white.
Appreciate that. I think my head's just been telling me that, but
I usually think like it's interesting.
I appreciate
'Cause
that.
I would sometimes I would almost be like, you need more black and whiteness.
Really?
Sometimes
Oh fuck.
I spend a lot of time in those shades.
True.
Sometimes
50 Shades of Kappa.
That's
Yeah.
funny.
I always be like, you know, sometimes things aren't that hard. Well, they are
Yeah, well,
that hectic, you know. There's not this or that.
yeah.
But it's funny like the perception that we have of ourselves and the
Yeah.
perception that other people have of us.
That's cool. I like that.
I don't say it even I don't even
It's
say
not
it
even
in
a
a
complimentary
complimentary
way.
or a non-complimentary way. I just say I wouldn't say that you were someone who's very black and white.
Yeah.
Which is a great example of what we were talking about earlier. When you notice those patterns, you know, if we can't be kind to ourselves, we can just be indifferent.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's sort of where we're moving anyway. Of just, this is something I noticed.
Yes.
Have a look
I
at
just
that.
noticed
Just
it.
like the
Yeah.
lady
Yeah.
beetle on the table. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, have a look.
It's happening. It's there.
I think lately I've probably been a little bit more just like, you know, either overexerting myself or just wanting to like take a 6-month vacay or like
Yeah.
being like
being one way or the other.
yeah, being more one way or the other. But no, it's nice hearing you say it like that. I wanted to follow on from that because I knew you were going to make a point about women kind of going around in circles.
And of course.
No, it's really good. It's very clear that we process things differently. But Joel, last night you were talking about a funny meme that made me laugh, and I wondered if you could refer to that meme, and then we could move forward from there.
For sure. It's so hard to explain memes because
You
then
did
they're
good
never
last
as
night.
good or as funny. But it was something along the lines of like a man when he says, it's like, it's this diagram, he's drawing up this diagram and he's basically saying that a man says, I'm sorry, he goes, I'm sorry. And then this is like a woman saying, I'm sorry. It's like, I'm sorry, the reason why and then he kind of works his way back around to the thing, but it literally takes him so long in all these different directions. And it was like, it's fucking piss funny because I've been in those instances where you think it's like it's done.
And then
it's
we just
fully
add
not.
another layer.
And you think it's fully like sorted and stuff, and it's fully like over.
It's that thing about us needing to process verbally. Wanted to touch on that
Yeah.
a little bit.
So Alistair says, you know, like it's like a lot of my process comes through talking it out.
Yeah.
And like we've spoken about previously, that thing of a woman's awareness being a little bit more diffuse and a man's awareness being more direct, of like he's able to see the thing, drop the thing.
Yeah.
But we're like, but have you seen it from this angle?
Yeah.
And then if you look from this angle, and if you look from this angle, and if you look from this angle, and it's just having not better or worse vision, but just a broader vision versus a concentrated vision of that male brain. So yeah, I think we can have that propensity towards needing the story, and I think there's also an element of it that women we want to feel safe.
Yeah.
So if we're seen, heard, and held, like every men want that too, but you want to know that that man is seeing the whole picture.
Yeah.
In order to settle down or feel safe.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool.
Whereas, yeah, men are just so much more direct.
Yeah.
Where it's like, where do I need to get to, and how do I get there as quickly as possible?
Yeah.
And all the other stuff, it's just like, it doesn't matter, cut it away.
It's gonna be the most efficient way.
Yeah. And I've been trying to be a little bit more like that and surprising myself.
It's interesting because as much as, obviously, I'm the female, Alistair's the male, I think that once I've gone through whatever process I need, I can be more direct than him. But it depends on if I've already digested or not.
Processed it somehow.
Yeah.
Processed it in your own timeline, different timeline.
Yeah, different timeline.
Because I know, like, saying these sorts of things sometimes when people haven't heard people speak about, like, oh, men are more like this and women are more like this, pissing people off. Like, well, I'm not like that. And it's not about, you know, men are this way or men or women are that way. It's like, as you try and be more direct, for example, sometimes I find myself trying to be like less direct and listen more.
You're so good at that.
So it's like each person is learning how to like navigate the thing better. There's no right or wrong.
Yeah.
So if you're being direct the whole fucking time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is an interesting,
true.
actually, a really interesting thing of, you know, when the other person's mirroring, like if Cappy's directing them, displaying that more direct quality, that you go more into that listening.
Yeah.
And that's an interesting thing too in the process-oriented psychology that Alistair and I study. They say that every seat at the table needs to be filled. So, you know, that thing of, we will switch roles as well depending on the needs of the situation.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. I love that.
That's for sure. And I think that I will say one last thing as well, based on your black and whiteness. Your black and whiteness also contributes to your sense of humour in a lot of ways. So like having that kind of like cut and dry way that you are sometimes also contributes to your humour. So it's an important thing sometimes to have because you can sort of tackle something from another angle in a really funny way.
Cool.
If you're too like fucking meet a lot of like full spiros, like hectic spiros.
Yeah. No, you don't.
Yeah.
That are like that have that ability to like cut.
Yeah.
Just because they're not that interested.
Yeah.
In it, you know?
That's great.
But yeah.
I love that. My neighbour has been with his partner for like 30 years. Actually, he just lost her. But before she passed, I asked him, what's the secret? Like, what's something that really made you guys gel so hard? They weren't married or anything like that. They just worked. And he said to me, 2 people can't be crazy at once. Like, when she's crazy, I'm... Yeah, I thought it was kind of brilliant. Is there any sort of advice that you all would have in the realm of love and how to maintain it?
I think for us, a lot of what we share in our relationship is a desire for growth.
Yeah.
And helping support each other through growth patches, which might seem like being crazy. So
that's bad shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's hard.
So yeah, that's a massive thing for us, is to try and kind of like understand how important growth is.
Yeah.
And that like we're both supporting each other and not holding each other back from it. Yeah. I think that like that as a foundation for a relationship works really, really well. Works really, really well for us.
Yeah.
Basically, because it's just the two, like with this, like Rihanna and I, we're two individuals, and that relationship is almost like a third.
Yeah.
So it's like as we're individually growing as people,
Yeah.
two separate people, it's like the we is growing as well.
It's such a cool concept, eh?
Yeah, so we're leveling up the
Concept.
the entity between us, the
Yeah.
like whatever the we is, that's
Yeah.
kind of shifting and growing and changing as we understand ourselves better.
Mm.
But then we can show up to the collective better.
Stronger.
Yeah, understand what we need, ask for what we need, understand what the other person needs, all that kind of stuff.
I think largely, like, one thing that is really necessary is giving the other person the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
So, you know, if, for instance, Alice is going through a growth place that's a little bit crazy, or, you know, I'm not as included, or whatever, it's getting past yourself enough
Yeah.
to let that other person have an experience while giving yourself and him the benefit of the doubt of he will navigate his way through this.
Yeah.
And I trust in him, I trust in me, and in the meantime, you know, I can work on myself through, you know, whether or not that situation is grading for me or whatever. It's like, okay, cool, that's showing me where I need to work, and bringing it back to, you know, this is an opportunity for me to level up in whatever way, rather than, okay, well, this really doesn't suit me at the moment.
Not
That's where
included.
people, that's where I think chicks go wrong so much, is that guys go find their answers and the girls are like so off it. And then
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
that's
there's lots
the
of blamey
stumble.
stuff and all that sort of thing,
Yeah.
rather than just like benefit of the doubt and like, yeah, being patient to, and understand that, you know, if either of us is going through that crazy patch, it's necessary. Like we spoke at a retreat of, like, you know, you need to have growing pains.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you wouldn't have grown into this body.
True.
And it's like, imagine if we could have negated growing pains. We'd all be babies still.
Yeah, you're
and it's
right.
like, if we could have gone, oh no, actually I don't want my legs to ache for weeks and my parents to just miss me and all those sorts of things, rather than like you're just forced to go through the pain. And I think that that's what growth equals, is pain, but that pain can be so beautifully liberating that it doesn't have to be painful. It can almost be, you know, a really incredible drug when you see it there as I always think, you know, the depression of a situation, or this of the situation, or whatever those painful aspects are, that is part of the fuel that is fueling the growth. It just depends on whether or not you get stuck in that emotion or use that emotion to serve the greater good.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. Flynn Skidmore talks about that concept, like 1 + 1 should equal 8. So it's like your energy comes together and you build this like entity, like you said, and then your energy is like so strong that it impacts everything else, and it's just like a collective house party.
There are heaps of, it depends where you're at, but like I feel communication, broadly speaking, is just so fundamental.
Yeah.
Like, just to kind of, like, really, really broadly, it would be very, very difficult for most couples to exist without good communication.
Yeah.
So, like, having really good understanding of how you can communicate with the other person and the ability to pick up what they're putting down as well would be so fundamental for the relationship.
Yeah.
Be aware of your own shit. That's probably the biggest. That's probably the biggest one.
Being aware of your
Put love
shit.
of yourself.
Yeah.
Self-aware.
I mean, if you don't bring a shred of that into it, then
Yeah,
You
and then
guys.
coming into that as well, I think one of the greatest things about love, and we were actually talking about this the other night, is if we want to foster love in our relationship and we really want to bring back that to the we, it's also understanding that romantic love is such a tiny aspect of love, and love is so much more than romance. And it's like, I really love in Alistair and I's relationship that we really allow ourselves to fall in love with people, with life. Neither of us impede each other's ability to love. And I feel like in romantic relationships, when, hey, that love is just for me, like we don't sleep with other people, we keep our physical intimacy to ourselves, and you know, those sorts of things. But
This is
if
the moment we admit that we're in a relationship.
I read a big meme about that the other day.
keys in the bowl, guys. I know he's a brother and sister, but it kind of adds to the kink. that yeah, if we don't impede love of how we show up to our work, our friends, whatever, then we're really cultivating that vibration of love within ourselves that we get to give to each other, rather than if I saw a spark in Alistair and I'm like, squash,
Yeah.
because that's not mine, or
Yeah.
that's not this. That I feel like we constantly strangle these elements of love. That is like to fall in love with the girl at the coffee store or the guy at the grocery shop or whatever. You don't need his number. You don't need to do that. You just have that moment of appreciation for each other, and that's
sure.
just another little thing in the love bank, and everything's a little bit shinier.
I couldn't
not
agree
a-
more.
It's not a big deal.
It's so good.
But I feel like that we've been sold the Disney romance, and
Yeah.
we forget how much love we're not actually expressing or sharing because we assume that love has to be sexualized.
Yeah, Hanji.
One thing I would say on and it kind of ties in with the Disney love thing, analogy that Ree said, is the idea that the connection and chemistry fading away is the end of that, whereas it's going to, but according to what everyone has ever told me about love, is that those things will fade, the kind of lusty, hardcore kind of drive chemical that you get when you first meet someone and you're first into someone, and that's when, once that fades, most people want to pack it because we've been taught that, oh, this mustn't be the right thing. But understanding that that is going to go, that's the way that life is, but then it's actually a good sign, because then you cultivate something new and something deeper beyond that. It's a good sign when that's gone, because then you're actually forging something more honest and true. And each time something disappears like that, then it's an opportunity, you know? And then that's what love is a choice.
Yeah.
Yeah, well said. It's like dropping into the top of the ocean, and when we can see the sun and it's also beautiful and blah blah blah, and then we get deeper, and then I think people assume that, you know, the force of that water is pressure, and it's like, okay, cool, it can be, but it can also be depth of meaning, depth of intimacy, depth of all those things. That it's like, to me, I don't know if those things go or if they morph into something else. But yeah, if you're addicted to the high or only ever want to swim on the surface, then cool.
There's going to be some problems.
Yeah.
With issues.
That's crazy. I noticed that in my last relationship, as soon as we had a problem, we just both threw it in the bin. That was young, 21, makes sense.
Same.
Yeah.
Except I did it much later.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's an interesting
We had a
thing.
little issue, and then we were like, okay.
See you later. Yeah, I was just like, see you later to her.
It's so much to do with other things.
Yeah. But no, it was funny touching on communication, because communication and humor are like really high at the top of my list. Actually, yeah, humor's important.
Yeah,
Can't just be the funny
100%.
one.
I would have laughed too.
I want to giggle as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Truly. But I did this quiz a couple of months ago on communication. I was like, what do you value most in a relationship? And it was like communication, something, and then the other one was like having a troopy, he surfs, and it was like 60% of people said communication, but 40% of people literally said the troopy and the dog, the kelpie, and I was just like,
That's what we're dealing with.
I was like, yeah.
I was wondering why I couldn't fucking get one. You know, it was, I didn't have a troopy, didn't have a kelpie.
Yeah, well, that's it. But then, reading the statistics on like, marriages and things breaking down
50-50.
and all. Yeah, it's like 60-40.
But I guess if you never want to exercise, you don't want a partner that exercises, right?
Yeah.
So if you don't want to communicate, or you don't have those tools, you don't see them to be valuable, because it's, oh fuck, then I'd have to front up.
Yeah.
Imagine if I just wanted to throw that relationship in the bin and the other person's like, no, let's talk about it. And it's like, oh god, it's so hard to stay with you when you're trying to break up all the time.
Yeah.
Like,
Pretty hard, man.
That's really cool.
Feel that. I wanted to communicate, and that's just being a non-communicator. It's
It's
hard.
not funny. It's like our pattern's kind of the same in ways. What is?
Some might say we have the same childhood.
Exactly.
What's your last name?
What's your last name? Lolberries. What is something about the opposite sex that you're in awe about?
Fuck. Okay.
Rhea as well. Feel free to ponder.
Damn titties. They're just magical. And like, you look at them and you go, I got nothing against like anyone who likes blokes, but and like women and stuff in general liking blokes, but I reckon like fuck, women fully drew the short straw on
Shit out
when
of the
it
deal.
came to, you know what I mean? Like, because like I look at women and they're just so soft and majestic. There are certain ones that look like they're kind of gliding from place to place and like floating around, and the way that they move and the way that they express and their skin.
That's so sweet.
I like the fact that women talk and that a lot of women are communicators. But then, you know, I've been caved by women who didn't want to communicate. So,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? You
The
know,
silence caved you.
yeah, so I don't know, but I think, you know, women in general have that kind of grace and that that sort of that contrast that I really like, softness and fire. They
Yeah.
come together really nicely, and I think they complement each other really well. Man with softness and fire, I don't see that as much, but I see women with a
You got
softness.
softness and fire.
Yeah, but I'm not like most people.
Yeah.
I'm not
And I
other
will say
guys.
one last thing. MILFs. I'm in awe of MILFs.
Feel free to tap the link in the show notes for one of these little babies. Free stickers all week long. And
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Like, just the grace and beauty of a woman is something to be in awe of. I feel as though the thing that is also extremely troubling for a man but is like so incredibly beautiful is the depth of emotion that women live in, where there's this just swirling deep currents happening underneath the surface that we can't even begin to
I can't even begin to understand it.
yeah. And that's really cool to be in the presence of. And
I feel seen. Thank you.
and there's heaps of like just beauty and creativity that comes forth from like that deep emotive state that women hold. But it's also like so different from my experience where as a man where I'm not that I can't really imagine what that is like. I can try, but I just wouldn't even think that I'm close to imagine what it would be like to experience things so deeply from an emotional lens. And yeah, it's contrast. It's mostly contrast. But I have like I'm in awe of that because it's part of the like I feel anyway like women the creative ability of women that comes from this like really deep emotive space, and like women are like creators who literally create life, and there's like this creation that comes from those deep emotions, whether or not it's like stuff that you do with your writing, photography, whatever. Like there's parts of what you bring into the world where you basically draw it from that really deep emotive space,
Yeah.
and share it with the world.
Yeah.
I think that's a really beautiful aspect.
It's brave, man. You guys, women are very brave.
Very brave.
That's my favourite compliment at the moment. Being
Brave.
called brave, so thank you.
It was wisdom last month.
Yeah, I said
That's
at the
good.
moment.
Yeah, that's good.
Bring it on.
last month.
Yeah, my monthly favourite.
We have a little calendar.
Month before that was posture.
Oh, yeah.
And he said I had good posture.
Yeah, good
Fell to my
posture.
knees, yeah.
How about now?
Ree, anything to add?
Sorry, was it
Pat
the
women?
thing we admire most? Basically the opposite of what Alice just said as far as what I admire about men is their ability not to think. It's that thing of I feel really I feel really cheap after such beautiful compliments. Thank you to both of you men. But what I love about men is that simplicity. Like I have a little inner top bloke in myself that I would prefer to be most of the time around the barbecue with the boys cooking because I love the banter. I love the simplicity. Yeah, like I really love the simplicity and a bit of banter, and I love it when you can build a 12-story building with someone, then someone drops back to the second floor, 12th floor, and you're creating with this simplicity that I find a lot of women can sometimes lose the magic of that because they just go to those depths.
Yeah.
That, of course, I love those depths. That's my native homeland. But what I like about being around men is that I have a change of pace there, and I find that most of the time the women that are inside talking around the table, there's not a little listening happening. They just talk.
Yeah.
It becomes who's the loudest, who's the most
Mm.
tired, who's the most this, who's the
Yeah.
most that.
Pungy.
And it's just not as light.
Couldn't agree
The
more.
lightness.
So yeah, I love the simplicity. I love their ability not to think. Love the fact that they open jars for me.
It's important.
You know?
People will be stuck.
Yeah, absolutely.
And sometimes you just need the swag carried out of the car, you know?
Yeah.
So,
I
generous.
appreciate that Alistair's a real gentleman like that. And
sometimes we need the patriarchy.
yeah, exactly. Because my top bloke only wants to be there when it suits me to be there.
Exactly. Fuck, there's some good comedy sketches about all that stuff.
Oh.
What in the hell?
That's brilliant.
I
about
think
you?
that, like,
Yeah, Canada.
just on from that, like that,
Yeah.
you're talking about that directness and that A to B kind of thing, where it's just like all the other stuff around it, we don't really pick up, and it's just, it is so incredibly simple, and that's interesting that that's like basically the contrast to what I felt with what I appreciate around women, because yeah, it's like I would imagine for us, like we don't have the depth, so like there's that causes conflict in understanding, and then for you guys, like that, you know, that simplicity is not as easy to pick up, and there's that kind of like potential conflict from that as well. So it's like we're seeing each other's sides and how we operate, and being like, oh yeah, that'd be nice to like actually have that level of depth, or that'd be nice for it to be that fucking simple.
You guys, women get that so much younger via like hanging with each other and talking about shit.
Yeah, we
Much
do.
younger
We do
than
break it
they
down.
do. They break down things
Yeah.
a lot younger. Sometimes it can be very hard, but you get that a lot. You flex that muscle younger.
Yeah.
We flex that muscle a lot later, I think.
Yeah.
But then we that's where we build our depth, is by hanging with women via mums or sisters,
Yeah.
or, you know, whoever that is, that emotional depth. And if you don't have that, if you just model everything after a blow, that's where we're in the issue that we're in now, you know.
Yeah, and I think that that's what's really hard too when we have defined love as Disney love, that for a lot of men that don't have a sister or didn't have the mum or didn't have those things, you assume that all female relationships need to be sexual. So unless I'm having sex with her, then it's that relationship is pointless. Or what if what if she wants to date me, or whatever those things are, that we reject those things. And then I think one of the things that's really difficult for men is growing up in your formative years, communication not being a natural part, that one of the men's greatest fears is being ostracized by their mates. So you don't really want to go out on a limb to be like, hey man, I was staring at the clouds the other day and I had this thought, because then you're a pussy, or you're this, or you're that.
Pussy.
Yeah.
Looking up at the fucking skies, have a beer.
Yeah,
That's it.
so it's really hard when you don't have the sister to hang out with, or the this to hang out with. That I feel like that must be really hard for men.
Yeah.
Fucking fairy. No, sorry. I'm still on that.
No, it's true. That's funny hours.
What about you? Oh,
The cat, huh?
What do you admire about the D?
What do I admire about the day, or the lack
I
thereof?
also want to women that ass.
That
I said
ass.
them titties before.
Yeah.
That ass.
but you're all,
I was
better
thinking
quality.
tits.
Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly. Yeah.
What do I admire? I think like it changes, but I've been really appreciating like the firm and calm and the practical.
Mhm.
Just the straightforwardness, like a bit of the black and white stuff. That's been getting me going as well.
Really receptive to that.
Yeah, well, it's just great. It puts me in my place, and then I just stop thinking so deeply into things. But I also really like a man who's strong and he's masculine. I've not been around that a whole lot. Who has a balanced feminine as well. I just love the masculine because it makes me feel a lot more just content and happy in my feminine. I've been with feminine men, or just like guys that just aren't strong and
Are you talking
capable.
about,
in
talking
their
about
masculine.
like romantically? Are you talking about me
Yeah.
as a feminine man?
You?
Or
No,
or-
other guys, I'm just looking at you. No, I think it just, a good, strong, masculine man promotes me to be healthy in my feminine, happy and proud.
And then you can do permission to, because otherwise, if a man's not being a man, a woman becomes her own man. So it's that.
Yeah,
sort of-
that's
then
it.
just permission to be
Yeah.
like, yeah, to play a different role. Or also sometimes it's that thing of, you know, I can get so stuck in my heads of like this, that, the other, whatever. And sometimes you just need permission to not do that.
Yeah,
Or
100%.
not have to forge the fight or pick up the sword or
Yeah.
whatever it is.
That's it. They kind of just break your patterns as well, I find, which is really good. But no, I used to like see quite a feminine dude, and I noticed myself always just having to be in the masculine more, because if we were both in the feminine,
In gay couples and that's sometimes, you know, there's like in like male gay couples, like so oftentimes there's like a real kind of feminine man who's like just with this really stoic kind of you know, and they balance each other really beautifully.
and the same the other way around. But I do notice in
Yeah.
like a lot of the lesbian relationships that there's a lot of this, and when they're both in their crazy, I guess it's just like it's like bombs, man. You need somebody. I feel like it's important to have that balance there. So yeah, that's what I'm appreciating.
I think that's like bang on. I think every individual has like their own particular balance of feminine and masculine, no matter what like sex you're born into. But there's that balance where there's like more feminine men, there's more masculine women, and they don't even need to be homosexual or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's like finding that other person that complements that.
Compliments.
That's what works.
Yeah.
That's like, you know, talking about like you see stereotypically gay couples with someone that is more feminine, someone that is more masculine. It's it's there because it's like there's that complementary aspect, and there's like even with our relationship, there's parts where like you'd be more masculine and I'd be more feminine.
Yeah.
And vice versa, you know, and like we're kind of so there's only so many seats at the table.
Yeah.
With that femme-mask thing, so it's like if we're both in a relationship where we're both being really masculine, there's just friction and clash, and same with being way too feminine, and it's like there's just this clash. So like with those relationships that you've had where the man has potentially been more in the feminine and forced you into the masculine, it's like you can't have the two really. You can't have two poles.
Yeah.
Like two on the same side dating together, it just won't really work. You need that polarity.
Yeah.
To actually kind of like create something between you.
Yeah. Oh, that's fun. I love the idea of that healthy mask.
I think as someone comes into, say, like a man expresses themselves more, and is more about what they love or about their feelings or anything, that could almost be seen as being more in their masculine or more powerful.
Yeah.
They do it without apology.
Yeah.
It's
It's
language
conviction.
aspects of
Yeah.
conviction.
That's my
I say this unapologetically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
I don't think there is nothing more than attractive to a man.
Oh.
Nothing more attractive in a man in that sense of when they're just backing themselves in present time.
Pungy. Yeah.
Anyone,
It's very
I think, is really
attractive.
cool. When they say someone says something that's absolutely fucking tapped but super funny, and then they own it.
Yeah.
You know, like for a lot of blokes, it's like there's a lot of guys. You see a lot of these videos where like a girl's asking about their qualities and stuff, or like how they are in bed. And they're like, "Fuck, I can get a good 2 to 3 minutes out and stuff." And they're being really, really like self-deprecating, but in a funny way, but really owning it. It's better than like goes, "Oh, I can fuck for hours."
Yeah.
You know, it's really like,
Yeah.
you know, like it's kind of funny seeing someone really just own something, or they're like, "Oh, I really love The Notebook," or "I really love this," or they have a really niche
They love
hobby, or-
cocktails.
yeah,
Oh,
and
no
they
beer, beers for her.
but they do it unapologetically. They don't do it like a
Yeah.
little bitch.
They're not.
Yeah.
They're not.
No, you're right. Good one.
Yeah, and then they're being authentic to wherever they are, and that
Yeah,
authenticity.
Maybe they're more in their masculine then, by being more feminine.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, this is tricky territory.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting thing.
It's just conviction. It's fucking for guys and for girls.
Mhm.
For all of the above. I was going to do the opposite end of the spectrum. What's something that you really just makes you just go, what the fuck? But I feel like we've kind of covered that about the opposite sex, unless you can think of anything.
Yeah, like it's never that complicated.
Yeah.
But it's also sometimes they're just women are like really surprised that. So, I mean, I think some of the women in my life or in the past have been so surprised at my inability to do more than one thing. Like I fucking can't. I remember like my first girlfriend. It used to piss her off and it used to make her laugh that I couldn't walk and text.
Yeah.
So we'd be in the middle of the city or traveling through Europe or something, and I'd be walking, And then all of a sudden I needed to send a text, so I'd stop walking and write the text, and we'd be in this traffic going past. She goes, "Can you just walk and text?" And I'm like, doesn't feel right. I can't concentrate on what I'm doing. And it's a really like frustrating experience for
It's cool. It's a
lot of
present
women.
life.
Caps like
I can do 18
she can
things.
do 18 things at once, you know, and
But maybe not.
you know, I would
not
argue
well.
that it's not that healthy.
Doing 18 things at once. Oh, 100%.
I would argue that. You know?
I'd prefer. I'm working on being a little bit more like that, but I think I end up doing everything at 3%. But I also get a lot done.
Get some shit done.
Nah, there's no right and wrong. But
It lends itself really well in the sense that you do things like you tick it off and you keep them moving, and action is better than fucking thinking about it all the time. Sometimes to action something.
Yeah. Do you think that you can take a lesson from pretty much everything?
Yeah, I think, but it depends on how we define like lesson.
A teaching,
Well, that's the thing. Is it a teaching or a reminding?
a reminder.
So no different to what we were talking about earlier of like you've got to notice that pattern and then sort of keep noticing that pattern. And then, you know, when we come to, it's like if we actually want to change something though, we have to live it. So we can't just notice I'm always abandoned and keep doing it. Well, you can, but you'll create your own suffering.
Yeah.
Or like, okay, cool. How am I going to actually use, apply, work with whatever that shadow? Or am I, you know, rather than kicking my foot every time I go to the bathroom at 3 a.m., why don't I just turn the light on to that?
Yeah.
So
I love your metaphors, eh?
yeah,
That's
I mean,
good.
Yeah.
once a pattern's illuminated, then you have choice and you can do something with it. So sorry, I've trailed off. What was
No,
the
it's
question?
good. I've forgotten as well. I just fucking was focused on what you were saying. I do think that everything happens for a reason.
Everything
Is that
happens
what
for a reason.
Is that what it was?
Lessons.
I got a tattoo of that on my back.
Yeah.
But
Can you get a lesson from everything?
Can you get on? That's the one.
it's that is what you were saying. Is that thing? It's like at what point is it a lesson? At what point do you need to listen to the
Remind,
fucking
yeah.
thing?
Yeah.
And
Just do it.
I actually think that can be a cause for a lot of our self-criticism is I fucking should know this or like, oh, I've already done this lesson or whatever, rather than being like, oh, I just got reminded. Thanks for the reminder. No different to if I forgot my wallet and you were like, hey, Ree, you've left your wallet on the table. Thanks for the reminder. Not, oh, it's such a
dumb cunt. Yeah,
like,
true.
What are we doing with our lessons and
Less
reminders?
scolding.
Well, then we can also pretend, oh no, I've never learned this before, because we don't realize it's the same fucking thing that we have already learned. But I think that information is always available, but it's just how quickly can you metabolize it.
Yeah.
So thanks for the reminder, move on. Thanks for this, move on. Thanks for this.
Hold on too tight, hey.
Yeah.
So it's like if you see so many people that are not learning their lesson, they don't listen to the lesson,
Yeah.
and then the universe is just coming up and just going, right, keep pumping you with this one, you know, living in this alignment, honesty, and then they're just constantly just getting fucking caved.
Yeah.
And their unwillingness to actually listen to the lesson or let it be a reminder, just keep going and going and going, and you just watch people being like drawn down to their knees and still like resisting the lesson.
Yeah.
And at what point do you need to be like, all right, it's time to actually fucking listen to this thing and let go?
Yeah. Go with the current rather than as it's trying to drag you and you're like,
dead set. You just go, oh shit, and you're just getting caved, and it's like it's putting you closer and closer to the fire.
Yeah.
And you're just kind of fully resisting the thing.
Yeah.
And then by that point, you're just going in this thing, you're not actually fucking learning the thing you need to learn.
Yeah.
And then it's like more pain. Do you need to learn through more pain? And one thing's for sure, you will get more pain. Pain until you get like you pick it up.
And I think with that too, it's like that seems to be the trajectory of like lessons, where it's like you have the same behavior continually, and then the universe conspires to fucking give you some pain until you change.
Yeah.
So it's like early on, it might not be uncomfortable. Whatever the thing is that you're doing, that like, you know, you could be in a relationship that is fine, but not really serving you. You could have friends that are all right, but they're like not the best for you, or you can have like, you know, behaviors, addictions, self-care, whatever, that isn't really serving you or helping you grow and step into newness.
Yeah.
And it's like in that stagnancy, it's like you hang there for long enough, and then that's where that pain's going to kind of start to accumulate. But there's like a period where if you pay attention, maybe you can see that there's a lesson coming up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that can come later. Yeah, later on once you become a bit sharper.
Yeah, and you're like, oh, this thing I'm doing, this might actually fuck me over in about 6 months' time.
Yeah.
Maybe you'll course correct now instead of waiting for it to be absolute fucking carnage.
Yeah, and listening to that intuition. But I think also what needs to be noted is a lot of people think they deserve to be in pain.
A lot of people think that they deserve to be in pain. Yeah, for sure.
And it becomes, and lots of people don't realize how much we can all have the ability to self-harm. And, you know, they might look at somebody that physically self-harms and thinks, oh, I would never do that. But yet in their daily life they are. Yeah. Or that, yeah, you're carrying the abuse around with you in your head because you think that the pain is necessary, or you don't see the transformative effect of it. Like we spoke about earlier, those things actually give you the momentum. It's giving you more and more momentum.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you're using that momentum to sink rather than using that momentum to expand. But yeah, I feel like you see a lot of people in a lot of pain, but they think that they deserve it.
Yeah.
And that's that shadow belief.
Yeah.
Like that kind of belief about yourself where you like, you know, that kind of person. It's like, oh, I don't deserve to not be in pain.
Yeah.
Or I deserve to be in pain, or whatever that belief is. So they're
Yeah.
constantly like in some way, shape or form striving towards it. You see it with endurance athletes.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there's like
Yeah, boy. That's
people that put themselves into those kind of situations, and it's like they also thrive there to a degree because they're so familiar with it. But there's there's a belief about yourself that you're like, oh, I should be in pain, or I'm not deserving of this, so I'm gonna go and punish myself, or
Well, it becomes a part of their fucking identity.
Yeah.
Like, instead of expanding, they just go, fuck, like, this is what happened to me. I'm so attached to this narrative, to this story, or to this significance that I get through my painful story, that I'm not ready to let this go because I have molded my entire identity around a painful past or a vision of myself or whatever, and I'm not ready to let that go.
Totally. Or I'm going to outwardly blame the other person, so until they change, I'm stuck here in the current.
Exactly. Until they change, until the onus is on them to be able to adapt to my way of doing it, then I'll change. Just excuses and shit.
And lots of people don't own their power. Like at all. And we're all so fucking powerful, and unless you're going to own that, good luck.
Yeah, fuck. You know, you have to own that shit.
So how does one own their power? Any tips and tricks?
well, that's the lifetime journey, I guess. Trying to kind of understand what that is for you. Yeah. And cultivate it and really step into it. But that's like fucking a whole lifetime.
Yeah.
I think love and presence is
that's it.
Always the key to everything.
Hot.
Less multitasking.
Yeah. More presence, more love.
No, that's good. Because
multitasking. I will say with the men and woman thing, like I guess scientifically that's driven by how hormones work on the brain.
It's a biological thing too.
Yeah.
Is anyone who says it's not, it's 100% biological too. So.
Yes.
That's the thing, and then both have a really. I wish I could do as many things as Cap could do. You know, as far as actioning them and getting them moving and getting them happening and not being so stuck on the one thing. Yeah. Like it'd be really, really hard. It'd be really, really painful to sit with something for 48 hours, 3 days, 4 days, 5 days. When you're creatively trying to move through something, like you're trying to action something, to be focused on the one thing and not being able to actually break into the next thing and go, okay, well, this isn't working. Let's just move to the next thing. Something I have trouble with. It's like, and just being able to be like, and it can actually mold you away from perfectionism to move to the next task and do the next thing, not necessarily doing them simultaneously, but doing them, okay, well, I'm going to do this next thing, and it doesn't have to be at 100,000% perfect.
Yeah. I sit down and go, I'm not going to get up till I finish this. And then 7 hours later, I get up.
And then you're still doing things like
Thank you.
At the one thing. But as far as being in your power is concerned, it's a lifelong thing.
I see you all as being in your power.
Yeah.
But it's also it's like really simple things too. It's even little tools. and stuff can can put you back into your power.
Yeah.
Like having little tools.
Yeah.
If you don't know those tools, like people can be forgiven when they don't have the tools to be able to actually tap that.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's really little things. It's not this huge, I feel powerful standing on the fucking top of a mountain thing. It's a really simple tool or a thing that comes back to what we said, comes back to the presence.
Yeah.
I think you nailed it earlier when you were talking about a man being unashamed. You know, that thing of like, I could be unashamed in my thing of like, oh, I like this.
This is what
That's my power, is to not be, to be completely adaptable to the situation, but still be in my truth.
Yeah.
That I don't have to compromise my truth situationally or whatever, that it's like, I'm just here, because no different to what we're talking about of like, the most masculine men can be so feminine.
Yeah.
It's like that is genuinely what is making them masculine, is the balanced feminine. And then I think that same thing of like, the actually powerful person doesn't need to assert their power, they just are.
They just are.
That's it.
And that's the difference.
Sure.
Yeah, it's like, you know, just because I was a hairdresser at some stage of my life doesn't mean I'm always a hairdresser.
Yeah.
It's just cool. That's a tool
Yeah.
that I have. If I need the scissors, no worries, I can wield them. But I'm not going to walk around clutching them.
Yeah, okay.
Running.
Scissors down. Put them down. Stop trying to cut everyone's hair. Yeah, you're gonna cause an accident. For sure.
That's so fucking funny. I was doing a science experiment on you guys, and you all passed. My science experiment was just, I have this theory that people need to kind of accept compliments a little bit more and like take it and just feel it and receive. Yeah. And I think because I love giving a compliment, I've just noticed it as well on people. The other day at the cafe, I just said to this dude, I was like, fuck, you got the biggest vibe. He was dressed like such a baller, and he just had a nice energy about him, and he just looked at me and he just was like, nah, I don't. And I was just like, okay.
It was actually my fault. What gives you the authority?
Yeah, right. I was just like, just kind of like, I just didn't even really know what to say, and I was just kind of like, well, you do. Like, you are a vibe. And he was like, true. And just like, and I was just like, well, I'm not coming back here to this cafe, and I'm never giving a compliment ever again. No, I'm joking. But I was just like, that's really interesting. I just think we all need to get a little bit better at taking compliments. But you guys didn't take my compliment. It was an observation of you all being in your power.
Sometimes I think in like my earlier deflections, what actually really helped me once is someone was giving me a compliment, and I was like, no.
You are.
And they looked at me really sternly and said, you could have just said thank you.
Yeah.
And I was like, it was kind of bitchy, but I was like, respect. I could have just said thank you. Rather than going into my awkward story, even though I felt awkward, I could have given an awkward, oh, thank you.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't have to go into awkward story.
Yeah.
I could have just awkwardly thanked and then got more used to the practice of thank you, thank you, thank you. And then it's like the more used to the practice I became more able to receive, rather than deflection being the only mechanism I knew how to receive.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, they do that, so I do this.
Yeah.
It was just that automatically reflex, rather than going, okay. And then also realizing how much she might have met me with that bit of bitchiness. But at the same time, if I'm throwing it back at her, I'm being a bitch.
Yeah.
By actually not receiving but also if I want to give, someone else has to receive.
Yeah.
And so who the fuck am I to steal that away from them?
Yeah.
Like,
that's good. I'm glad you worked on that.
Thanks.
It's an Australian thing too.
Yeah.
It's all the obviously there. Yeah. Australian thing. In America, they really celebrate it almost too much sometimes. They're like, I'm the fucking best, I'm an incredible music artist, I'm working on this, and then people go, yeah, fuck yeah. But then in Oz you say, yeah, I like to do this sort of thing, and people are like, oh, he fucking thinks he's the fucking best. You know? And you're navigating that a lot when you're younger, in Australia especially, I think. A lot of loaded compliments and things. People give you a compliment, and if you really accept it, they go, so you think. So that Mean Girl's quote, she goes, oh my God, you're really pretty. And she's like, oh, thanks. He goes, so you think you're really pretty?
Yeah.
It's a full thing, you know. She just
Yeah.
accepts the compliment. She goes, oh, so that's what you think, you know.
Yeah.
And you got to take the piss out of yourself or like write yourself off to like bring it back to like
Yeah.
Especially in Australian culture, for sure.
Australian culture. 100% has a huge part to play.
Guys are big on that. Aussie guys, like, I feel like I give an observation or a compliment or whatever, and they're just like, nah, nah. Like, even Cobb will just be like, he'll just fucking tell a joke that's just like completely the opposite of like anything, just completely veer the conversation elsewhere. He's just like, get it away from me, sort of thing. And I'm like, am I making you feel awkward by giving you a compliment, darling?
Fuck, you
but
can
yeah.
get back to my DM, eh? Anyway,
Yeah,
that's another
Cobb,
story.
if you're listening.
Back to my DM.
We've been sending it for an hour 21, so I was
Jesus
thinking.
fuck.
Yeah, we did good.
That's
called
rough,
the
guys.
flow.
Well, there's probably the odd little edit out.
Yeah,
There will
for
be.
sure.
There'll be some
I like to have
fuckery.
it at about an hour anyway. But I was gonna say, finishing up, I like to give the people a little takeaway that they can take. Maybe it's a technique that you use when you're feeling yourself a bit flighty, or you're feeling like you'd like to sit and more calm. Is there a technique that you have to get yourself back into equilibrium? Feel free to demonstrate if it's a breath work. We can do it all together.
Oh, hands.
That's the one I was thinking of. Yeah. Fuck, that one's brilliant. Gave me too much energy the other day, though.
You were pepped up and
Yeah,
jacked.
yeah. It's like sitting at the computer just janging. Anyway.
I think trying to get back into presence is sometimes really, really challenging. And one thing that I have been doing a little bit lately is just trying to focus in on detail of wherever I'm at. So like it's really good in nature if you're outside and you can kind of like, you know, zone in on the flower and kind of like really, really pay attention to the micro instead of the macro, because like when we're not being present, we're like lost in the macro of space and time. So to kind of like bring yourself back into really, really kind of micro, it's been helping me drop into presence, which has been nice.
I love.
I think for me, I think we've already spoken about this, but like Kurt giving me the cue of just asking yourself, how can I arrive more fully? So noticing when my brain's a little bit scat that like, okay, I'm 10% here, I'm 20% here, I'm 30% here, especially being female, and I'm like, that it's like, yeah, how can I arrive in this room? And it's not a question to be answered. It's just the cue to realize, fuck, I'm not in the room. That is like, how can I arrive here more fully? And then, like, as you said, then I'll notice details more. Or you notice the colors be a bit brighter and you're actually here rather than 10% in that room, 20% still at work, 30% there, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
And not that I want to do a breath work, but I will say that like breath is the only way that we can regulate our autonomic nervous system. So it's that thing of even just a coherence breath of like in the same, out the same, in the same, out the same. Something really simple so that you don't have to think, oh, was it 3 counts in or was it this or was it that? It's just like, cool.
Stop the music.
Yeah, just
Yeah,
noticing yourself of like, that's going to help regulate your nervous system more than anything else that you could do with your limbs.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So generally, I like to. I find sometimes when I'm not feeling very good, I like default to something that is presumably very easy, like just like scrolling on my phone, or you know, just like kind of sitting around and not really doing anything, and when I just go, okay, let's just do something that feels hard right now, and I get it done. I know that afterwards I leave it feeling just so much better. The times I just started boxing recently, shout out to Chris Regan Boxing, and what a man. And I found every single time I really didn't really feel like going to box, I went, and they ended up being my favorite sessions. So every time I do something like that, whether it's yoga or go for a bike ride or something, that's where I just come out of it. I saw a thing, a chick recently, she's always struggling, she's always posting it to socials, which is
Is it your
great.
sister?
So she's struggling in a really, she's doing it in a way of like, I don't know if it's worth living anymore, things like that, really heavy things, right? And part of me, you know, I tried to offer up some things, but you know, people have commented underneath, girl, life's fucked, it can be really hard, like, you know, stay in your room, get yourself some good food, like get some junk food, like watch your favorite movies, and just do, and I'm sitting there looking at this information that she's feeding her friend from a place of good-heartedness, going, I want to comment underneath, that is the worst possible advice you could give to her, because what she needs to do is she needs to speak, she needs to probably get out of her room, eat good food, all these different things that we're defaulting. People have been defaulted to doing everything that's bad for them in order to feel better. But the one little thing that you can do that's a little bit harder, cooking yourself a good meal, or going for a bike ride, or going to do some exercise, or going for a swim, or breath, or stretch. You don't want to do it in the moment. Fuck knows. I'm not the kind of person who wants to do that, but you do it and you feel so much better.
Yeah, and then you've achieved something.
And then you've achieved something, and then you tick that off. Sometimes you do it in the start of the day. When I'm doing a list of things that I've got to do that day, I love putting on things that I've already done.
Yeah, I do that too.
So I've already done that, and I straight away go, and it feels like I'm already like doing the thing. You know, you get yourself into a state of that. That, and then on the breath work, it's the one that what's that? Huberman did. He did the, and it's like these two fast kind of breaths inward from his nose. Go. And straight away you feel this kind of like sense, when you're really stressed, you feel this sense of calmness kind of hit you. And then it's simple, man. It doesn't need to be really like that's the hardest thing for us all to grasp. It's really simple. Don't be complicated.
It was interesting what you said around the like lock yourself in your room, eat junk food. Because it's like, man, it's the contrast between escapism and presence.
Yeah. Biggest.
And like when you're in a shit way, like mentally, that sounds pretty extreme, but if there was any kind of situation where you're not really in a good headspace, it's like bringing yourself into presence is quite challenging to do, because you're trying to actually escape all the fucking noise in your head to step into this moment. But it's a lot easier just to go and like drink 1,000 beers
or some porn or something.
Something. Anything. Get me out of my fucking head right now.
And then when you're hungover, you don't feel like the chicken salad, you want the chicken burger.
You want a chicken burger. You know, and what's funny on that is the contrast again is society has warped self-love in the wrong kind of light. Self-love is getting yourself like a junk food, you know, sit in, watch Netflix and stuff.
Bubble bath.
And like those are all, like we're all allowed to do those things. Self-pleasure though, that's what they are. They're not self-love. Self-love is fucking bit harder than that. You know, it's the thing that you don't want to go and do. It's something that every single person at this table understands, but I think it all took us some time to fully grasp it.
For sure.
That's where I think though, like you using the flower as a cue can be really valuable when we choose something in nature, because it's not asking anything of us. It's not giving me any advice. It's not doing this. It's not doing that. And the more that I can get lost in that flower and be in that meditative state where I'm not awake, not asleep, and I'm just with the flower, then it's that thing of she might get a little answer drop in or something like that when it's like actually in that stillness of being with that flower. I think that nature can be a really great tool.
Yeah, I can't underestimate that. It's huge.
It's funny that you say that, because I was feeling quite like, I guess, low this morning, and I just channeled it into like writing, and then after the big stint of writing, I went and picked those flowers, and I was like, that's my exercise to get back into presence. And then I felt my feet in the earth and just like picked the flowers one by one. It's just like,
nice.
Bro, it's as simple as these, and they smell good.
It's good to say that, because Alan says that you do that, and it's doing it with everything. When you're like washing a dish, for example, you're washing the dish. You know, you're cleaning that and then putting it down. I find it so much better. The days when I'm trying to run around and fill like a cup of water up while I'm brushing my teeth at the same time and taking a piss, you know, it's like I get really like. Whereas if I go like, okay, wash the dish, replace it. It feels so much better.
No, it's great.
Is that all the
Observe the
same?
flower.
If you can make a cup of tea right, you can do anything right. Just make the cup of tea.
It took me a while to make good.
That's where the English got it right.
That's really good. What's my one? We talked about this on another potty, but I really love this one. It's called havening. So when you're feeling like a bit stressed, you just really like feel the sensations like this come back, and it feels really nice when you're in. You just feel that. I feel it.
When I think about you,
I haven myself. That was so great. I really appreciate having you guys on, and I realized I didn't really introduce you. But,
Everyone just
it's just like I could do the full intro, but I really appreciate you guys. That gave me so much energy and reminded me of why I'm fucking here. So thank you.
My name's Joel.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
My name's
Thank you all.
Thank you
Love
guys.
you all.
Yeah, that was
Yeehaw.
such wisdom.